Yo, Dan, you ready for this PC build? Oh, I've been ready. All right, you get to it and I'm gonna head out. But don't forget that today's video is sponsored by Autonomous. I'll see you in a bit. All right, guys, so the build is all done, but before we get into it, I want to point out the new desk that I got, because if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that my old one was all beaten up and it was super wobbly. So Autonomous reached out and they said, hey, we think our Smart Desk 2 would be a great addition to your setup. So I've been using it for a while and it's fantastic. It's got a really deep top to it so I can fit my PC, a monitor, a desk mat, and everything else. And I decided to go for black legs and a black top. And it's got a nice control panel over here and I can go up and down. And it's also got a digital readout too when it's in use. So if we go down, we can see the readout and it's really quiet. And we've got 4 memory presets as well, so I can set different heights and then just set them to each of the numbers over here. And setting it up was super easy too. So I'm really excited to include this in all of my upcoming videos. And then make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video so you can see the entire setup put together on the desk. So the case is the Corsair Frame 5000D, and I did a video a while ago on the Frame 4000D, and this is going to be very similar, but the 5000D is going to be pretty much bigger in every single aspect. And it is a large case. As you can see, it barely fits on my Lazy Susan. It's pretty much taking up the entire length of it, so it's a very long case. Not super wide, but maybe a bit bigger than most normal cases. But being bigger, you can fit more fans, bigger radiators. So there's a lot of options for this case. And we have the nice clear side panel. We have the front that Corsair is using on a lot of their frame cases nowadays, which I think does have a cool look. And Corsair says it is functional. Then we've got mesh on the top. We've got a very generous I/O down here. We've got a nice elevated base to get fresh air into the bottom fans and the PSU shroud. Then we have this panel right here. And then I have this semi-clear panel that comes with it behind it. But if you want, you can remove that so you get even more fresh air, because right now the air is actually being blocked by that, but you can remove it. So you just have fresh air going into there. But for the sake of cable management, I decided to leave this one so we can't really see anything behind it. Then if we take a look at the back, we've got mesh where our side fans are sitting. Then we'll loop this around towards the rear, and hopefully the power cable doesn't come out. That wouldn't be good. But we've got ventilation for our rear fan. Motherboard sits over here. Here's our GPU. And this bracket can be rotated if you want to vertically mount your GPU. And our power supply sits down here, horizontal. So cool looking case. And I decided on a light blue RGB theme for it because I tend to go for white or green. And green obviously matches my setup, but I felt like blue was the move for this one. And I think it looks good. So every video I always get a ton of requests to show my PCs in low lighting. So let's do that. And then we'll take off the panels and look at the inside. So all of my studio lights are off except these two overhead ones that shine down on my setup. And you can see it is glowing pretty bright in there. I do have the RGB set very, very low as far as brightness. And you can see the build is still lit up really, really well. So I do think it looks cool. So I'm gonna start including these dark shots in all of my videos so you can actually see what it looks like in a dark room, which a lot of people are playing in. And I think it looks cool. All right, let's go ahead and take off these panels. So the build consists of a Ryzen 7800X3D CPU, and that's being cooled by the Montech Hyperflow Silent 360, which is one of my favorite AIOs to use because it's so inexpensive. I think the 360 is only 80 bucks. And there's no RGB on it, but I think the silver and white just match the build really, really well. And because there's no RGB, there's less cables to manage. So we only have the one 4-pin connection for the pump. So much easier to manage and make look clean. Then we've got the ASUS TUF Gaming B850 BTF motherboard. We've got 32 gigabytes of Team Group T-Create RAM, which I use in so many builds, but it's just so clean looking and also inexpensive, which is nice for DDR5 RAM. And then underneath that heatsink, we've got a Corsair MP700 NVMe for storage. Then we've got the ASUS TUF Gaming 5070 Ti BTF GPU, and that actually gets power through the motherboard. So if you have a BTF motherboard like this one, there's actually a connection on the motherboard. Let's see if I can get this to focus, and I might have to zoom in. But there's a connection on the back of the GPU, and that plugs into the motherboard. And then your power supply cable actually plugs into the motherboard instead of the GPU. So the GPU is actually getting power through the motherboard. And the interesting thing is, if you have this GPU and you don't have a BTF motherboard, you have the normal 12 volt connector behind here. So there's this little plug, and then you can just go ahead and plug your power supply cable into here if you don't have a BTF GPU, or if you're upgrading down the line. And then you can actually just put this back in. There we go. Because I am not using a cable in front. I have a BTF motherboard, so that's how it's getting power. So really cool setup, really clean. As you can see, we have almost no cables in the front. And all of the fans are Fantex D30. So these are 30 mil thick fans. And I absolutely love these fans. Really easy to manage. A little bit of cables with them, but I think it's easy enough to hide them. So those look great. And then we've got reverse blade on the bottom for intake. We have reverse blade on the side for intake. And then we have regular blade on the front, on the top, and on the rear. So it looks like we have 8 intake and 4 exhaust. So we've got nice positive pressure and very low fan speed. So the 30 mil fans push a little bit more air, so you can turn down fan speed a little bit, and it is dead quiet right now. Then with these frame cases, they have all these designs right here for their frame system. So you can basically unscrew this right here, unscrew this right here, and then you can move these brackets depending on which fan size you have. So it came with pre-installed 140 millimeter fans, but I'm using 120 mils all the way around. But you can see if we look at the top, and it might not show it, but it has the numbers for where you need to set the brackets depending on the fan size. So we've got them set to this position because we've got 120s, and you can see it use these little tabs right here to secure all of the fans. Then we also have this side bracket right here too, which the 5000D comes with. So it normally doesn't come with the fan bracket from the factory, but I went ahead and installed the 3 fans on it and then installed that bracket and then just moved the other bracket to the side. But you don't have to run side fans. It comes with a different bracket if you're not going that route. But you can mount radiators to pretty much every single side of this case, the front, the side, and the top. These fans just look great. I've always loved the D30s. So really clean. So let's take a look at the back now. So we've got a Corsair Shift PSU. So all of the connections come out on this side. This is the RM1000X. And then I am using their Pro Type 5 cables because I really like these cables and I think they're easier to manage. And then once again, boys, the cable management came out absolutely insane. So really, really clean. And like I said, this is a back connect motherboard. So all of our connections are in the back. So we have our CPU right here. Here's a fan header. Here's another one, 5-volt ARGB. 24 pin, we've got USB Type C and Type A for the front panel. And then we've got our front panel, all of the connections for that, for like power and all that good stuff. And then we've got more fan headers and then another 5-volt ARGB plug. And I was able to tuck those in nicely back here so you can't see any of those cables. And then everything is pretty much tied up right here. And then our CPU cables go up along the side right here. So really clean look. Then most of our cables are actually hidden down here. So you can see there's kind of a mess of cables down there, but at least they are out of the way. So you can see all those are down there. And I kind of wanted to 3D print a bracket to go over it, but from pretty much any viewing angle, it's really hard to spot. And a big reason why I went with this non-clear panel right here, so you couldn't see those. So unfortunately, the front panel connector cables are kind of long, so I just zip tied them all down there to be out of the way. But really happy with the cable management, especially with BTF. You never know whether it's going to be easy or not because all the cables are in back, but all the cable length ended up working out perfectly. I've got them all nice and zip tied, and then I'm also using a lot of the Corsair included Velcro strips that come with the case. So really, really clean. But what do you guys think of the build? I really like it. I think it came out great, and I've been planning this for months. And unfortunately, I was waiting for the motherboard and GPU from ASUS for a very long time, and I never got them. So I ended up buying the GPU and the motherboard to make this video, and then also use them for future content. So I had to bite the bullet and invest a good amount of my own money to make this build possible. So I hope you guys like it. So please like the video and subscribe if you do enjoy it, so I can get some monetary benefit out of this video. Build looks great, guys. Almost no cables in the build. The only few that are showing on these BTF motherboards, the CPU cable is actually on the front. So we have that cable, but I was able to hide it really nice next to the RAM right there, so you can barely see it. And then my rear fan, you can see the cable right there going down towards the bottom. So those are pretty much the only cables showing on the front side of this build. So I think it came out really clean. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. All right, so let's see this with a full setup and see how it looks. So here is the gaming setup on the Autonomous Smart 2 desk, and I gotta admit, it does look great. And even with this longer PC case, you can see we have a little bit of room in the front and then still have a ton of room in the rear. So the desk is plenty deep enough to fit even the longest of PC cases. Then I'm also able to fit a large desk mat and also a large monitor stand as well. Although I do think a monitor arm might be a little bit cleaner. Then I'm utilizing all of their cable management holes they give you on the desk. So they have these little rubber grommets right here, and I have my cables feeding through. Then if we come around to this side, we've got this one right behind the PC. So I've got my monitor cable to the PC, and then also the power cable to the PC routing through here. So a really, really clean look that is not visible from the front. So that looks great. So I think I might start utilizing this desk in my second setup, which I don't show too often in long form videos, but I do for short form because I need a dedicated station for testing different components. So I think I'm gonna start using this desk. I think it looks really clean, but let me know what you guys think of it. Then if you're interested in anything autonomous, I'll go ahead and leave some links down below. But like the video, guys, subscribe if you enjoy my content, share it with your friends, comment down below, and then I'll see y'all in the next video.